Stop running from chaos. The secret to peace isn't avoiding storms, it's learning to dance in the rain. What if everything you've been taught about strength is a lie? That voice in your head, the one that screams, "Why me?" when life blindsides you, the rage that boils when someone betrays you, the dread that keeps you awake at 3 a.m., it's all sabotaging you. Right now, your mind is a war zone. But what if you could step out of the battlefield for good? Centuries ago, Buddhist monks mastered a radical truth. Pain doesn't have to become suffering. Imagine a life where insults bounce off you like rain off a mountain, where rejection feels like a closed door, not a death sentence, where chaos swirls around you, but you stay still, untouchable. This isn't fantasy, it's science. Your brain is wired to cling to pain, to replay worst-case scenarios like a broken record. But in the next 10 minutes, you'll steal 6 forbidden secrets from ancient warriors of the mind. Secrets like why your darkest failures are actually trapdoor escapes, how to turn cruelty into curiosity, and the shocking reason your ego is a shadow begging to be erased. There's a powerful bonus lesson at the end that just might change everything you think about. You'll meet a CEO who silenced her anxiety with a single question, and a monk who laughs in the face of betrayal. This isn't positive thinking, this is mental engineering. The storm is coming. Will you keep drowning or learn to walk on water? Don't just survive, become untouchable. Let's begin. Number 1. Suffering is optional. Perception is your lens. Pain is inevitable, but suffering? That's a choice. Imagine standing in a vast field, half covered in mud, half blooming with wildflowers. In your hands, a camera. The lens determines what you see. You could zoom in on the dirt, the struggle, the things that went wrong, or shift your focus to the flowers, the lessons, the possibilities. Life works the same way. Pain is the mud, loss, rejection, failure, but suffering. Suffering is when we refuse to adjust our lens, keeping our focus locked on what hurts us. A man once came to the Buddha, furious. He hurled insults, expecting anger in return. But the Buddha only smiled and asked, "If someone offers you a gift and you refuse to accept it, to whom does the gift belong?" The man stood speechless. The lesson: external events are neutral. They carry no power until you give them meaning. A harsh word, a missed opportunity, an unexpected setback. None of these define you unless you let them. Yet, how often do we trap ourselves in unnecessary suffering? Someone criticizes us, and we replay their words for days. A single failure convinces us we aren't good enough. We carry past wounds as if keeping them alive will somehow protect us. But ask yourself, does holding on to pain make you stronger, or does it make you a prisoner? Your mind is the lens through which you see reality. And the greatest power you have is this: you can shift the focus. When difficulty arises, pause, breathe. Ask yourself, is this truth or just noise? If someone insults you, is it a reflection of you or of them? If you fail, is it proof of inadequacy or an opportunity to learn? Reframing is the key. A rejection isn't proof of failure. It's redirection towards something better. A painful ending isn't just loss. It's a chapter closing, so another can begin. Buddha said, "We are shaped by our thoughts. We become what we think." Hold on to anger, and you will live in resentment. Hold on to loss, and you will carry sorrow. But shift your focus. See challenges as teachers, failures as stepping stones, pain as fuel for wisdom. And suddenly, suffering dissolves. This isn't just philosophy, it's neuroscience. Studies show that thoughts shape neural pathways. The more we focus on pain, the deeper those mental grooves become. But when we consciously shift our perspective, we rewire the brain, making peace and resilience our default state. So ask yourself, what mud are you magnifying instead of moving past? What moment in your life changed simply because you shifted your perception? Comment below. A single shift in focus can change everything. Now, take a deep breath. Feel that? That's you, reclaiming control. Because suffering was never a life sentence. It was just an option. And now you know better. 2. The illusion of control. Ride the river's current. A leaf drifts downstream, effortless, unburdened. It doesn't resist the current, doesn't fight to go in a different direction. It simply moves with the river's wisdom. But what happens when we try to control the flow? We paddle frantically against the current, exhausting ourselves, yet getting nowhere. The harder we fight, the more we suffer. Control is an illusion, yet we cling to it. We plan our lives meticulously, mapping out careers, relationships, goals, believing that if we just try hard enough, we can force life to obey our expectations. But what happens when things don't go as planned? A missed promotion, an unexpected breakup, an opportunity slipping away. Anxiety rises, frustration builds. We grip tighter, believing that if we just push harder, we can force reality to align with our desires. A young monk once approached his teacher, overwhelmed by worry. "Master," he said, "I feel like I'm constantly struggling. No matter how much I try to control things, life keeps pulling me in different directions." The teacher smiled and pointed to a river. "What happens when you fight the current?" he asked. "You drown," the monk replied. "And what happens when you surrender?" The monk paused, then answered softly, "You float." Buddhism teaches that attachment is the root of suffering, and control is one of the deepest attachments we have. We try to control outcomes, people, even emotions. But life isn't a machine to be operated. It's a river to be ridden. Some of the greatest pains in life come not from what happens to us, but from our resistance to it. So, how do you let go? First, recognize that uncertainty is not your enemy. It's your guide. Every closed door is redirecting you. Instead of obsessing over, "Why did this happen?" ask, "What better path is life nudging me toward?" You didn't get the promotion. Maybe you were meant for something greater. A relationship ended. Maybe it was clearing space for something deeper. The mind wants certainty, but wisdom thrives in surrender. As the Zen saying goes, let go or be dragged. Clinging creates suffering. Trust creates flow. Think about your own life. Where are you paddling upstream? Where are you exhausting yourself trying to control something that was never yours to hold? What if trust required less effort than control? Breathe. Release the grip. Life has a current of its own, one that has carried you through every storm, every loss, every unexpected turn. You have never drowned, you have always been carried, and you still are. 3. The mirror of karma. Reflect, don't absorb. A mirror never breaks from an insult. It doesn't argue. It doesn't absorb the anger thrown at it. It simply reflects. But what happens when we react? When we take words personally, we crack. We shatter under the weight of someone else's pain, forgetting that their words were never about us in the first place. Life constantly presents us with difficult people, those who insult, manipulate, criticize, or try to bring us down. It's easy to react, to absorb their negativity as if it defines us. But Buddhism teaches us something different. What others say and do is a reflection of their own inner world, not ours. Their anger, their cruelty, their judgment, it is their suffering being projected outward. If you allow their words to enter you, if you hold on to them, you make their suffering your own. But if you stand like a mirror, you remain untouched. A monk once traveled with his disciples when a stranger began hurling insults at him. He remained calm, unaffected. Later, his disciples asked, "Master, why didn't you defend yourself?" The monk smiled and said, "If someone offers you a gift and you do not accept it, to whom does it belong?" The lesson is simple. An insult is only as powerful as the reaction it provokes. If you don't accept it, it remains with the giver. How often do we carry someone else's anger long after they've moved on? Someone insults us, and we replay it in our minds for days. We allow their words to dictate our mood, our confidence, our peace. But imagine responding differently. Instead of reacting, observe. Instead of absorbing, reflect. When someone gaslights you, manipulates you, or tries to hurt you, say to yourself, "I see you, but I won't become you." This doesn't mean suppressing your feelings. It means choosing your response consciously, instead of letting someone else's chaos dictate your emotions. If someone throws fire at you, you don't have to catch it. If they throw anger, you don't have to hold it. Respond in a way that aligns with your values, not their negativity. Buddha said, "An insult is like a gift. If you refuse to accept it, it remains with the giver." Strength is not in fighting back. It is in standing firm, untouched. The moment you realize that their words are about them, not you, you reclaim your power. Now, reflect for a moment. Whose gift are you still holding on to? What would your calm mirror reflect today? Breathe. Let it go. You are not their words. You are not their pain. You are the mirror, untouched, unshaken, unbreakable. 4. The sword of mindfulness. Cut mental chains. A sword can slice through tangled vines in a single stroke, but imagine someone trapped, surrounded by thick, twisting branches, desperately trying to escape. Instead of using the sword, they pull at the vines, getting more entangled, more exhausted. This is the nature of overthinking. We don't get stuck because of our problems. We get stuck because we believe every thought that passes through our mind. How many times have you been held hostage by a thought? A worry about the future that spirals into anxiety. A memory from the past that turns into regret. The mind creates endless stories, repeating them like a looped song, convincing us they are real. But Buddhism teaches a powerful truth. Thoughts are not facts. They are like passing clouds, shifting and changing. Some are heavy storms, others are clear skies, but none of them are permanent. A student once asked a Zen master, "How do I stop my thoughts?" The master replied, "Imagine you are sitting beside a road. Cars pass by, some fast, some slow, some noisy. Do you chase after them?" The student shook his head. "Then why chase after every thought? Your mind is like that road. Thoughts will come and go, but you don't have to follow them. The moment you realize this, you gain freedom. You don't have to argue with negative thoughts. You don't have to prove yourself to self-doubt. You simply step back and watch." But how do we cut through the mental noise? The answer is mindfulness. The simplest practice is the stop technique. S. Stop. When you feel overwhelmed, pause. Don't react. T. Take a breath. Breathe deeply. Anchor yourself in the present moment. O. Observe. Notice your thoughts without judgment. Are they true? Are they helpful? Or are they just noise? P. Proceed. Respond with clarity, not impulse. Let the thought pass like a cloud, like a car on the road. Lao Tzu said, "The mind is a flexible mirror. Adjust it and see the world change." The way you think determines the way you experience life. If you let thoughts control you, you remain tangled in the vines. But if you use mindfulness like a sword, cutting through illusions, you free yourself. Now, ask yourself, what mental vine is strangling your peace? What if your next anxious thought was just background noise? Take a breath. Watch the thought pass. You are not your mind's prisoner. You are the observer, the sword bearer, and with that, you cut yourself free. 5. Emptiness is strength. The storm passes through. A storm never destroys the bamboo. It bends, it sways, but it does not break. Why? Because it is hollow. It does not resist the wind. It lets it pass through. Yet, when we face life's storms, we do the opposite. We tense up, fight, resist. We try to be stone when we should be air. And that resistance? That's what turns pain into suffering. Life will bring loss. It will bring rejection, disappointment, grief. We believe strength means fighting these emotions, armoring ourselves against them. But Buddhism teaches that real strength is not in resisting, it is in allowing. Like bamboo in the wind, like the sky that holds every storm without breaking, we become unshakable not by blocking emotions, but by letting them flow through us. A monk once told his student, "You are not the storm, you are the sky. The storm comes, but it always passes." Imagine holding on to a painful experience, maybe a betrayal, a heartbreak, or a deep loss. The mind tightens around it, replaying the memory, fueling the pain. But what happens when you stop clenching, when you simply allow? The emotions move. They rise, they peak, and then, like every storm, they fade. Pain demands to be felt, but it doesn't have to own you. Imagine a river. Drop a rock into it and ripples form. But if you let go, the water settles on its own. The same is true for emotions. The more we grasp, the more turbulence we create. The more we let go, the faster peace returns. So, how do you practice this? When emotions overwhelm you, stop fighting. Instead, remind yourself, I am the sky. This storm is temporary. Breathe deeply and observe. Notice the emotion, but do not become it. Anger is not your anger. It is just anger, passing through. Grief is not your grief. It is just grief, visiting for a while. When you stop identifying with emotions, they lose their grip on you. Pema Chodron said, "You are the sky. Everything else is just weather. If you live as stone, you will crack under pressure. If you live as bamboo, you will survive every storm." Let the wind pass through. Let the emotions move without resistance. Let the storm rage. But know, without a doubt, that you are not the storm. You are the sky, vast and unbreakable. Now, ask yourself, what storm are you trying to block instead of breathe through? Where can you be hollow today? Pause. Inhale. Exhale. The storm will pass, but you, the sky, will remain. 6. Compassion as armor. Deflect, don't defend. A diamond does not fight back when struck by a hammer. It does not shatter, does not resist. It simply remains unbroken. But glass cracks at the first impact. The difference is not in the force of the blow, but in the nature of what is being struck. And in life, you have the choice. Will you be glass, or will you be a diamond? Criticism, insults, betrayal. These things hurt, but only if we let them. When someone lashes out, our instinct is to defend, to argue, to retaliate. But Buddhism teaches that true strength is not in defense, but in understanding. A person's cruelty is not about you. It is a reflection of their own suffering. Their anger is their burden, their pain projected outward. And when you absorb it, when you react, you make their pain your own. But what if instead you met their hostility with compassion? There was once a great Buddhist master who was constantly ridiculed by a man in his village. Every day The man hurled insults, trying to provoke him, but the master never reacted. One day, a disciple asked, "Master, why don't you ever respond?" The master smiled and said, "If someone offers you a poisoned drink and you do not accept it, who does it belong to? When someone is cruel to you, imagine them holding out a poisoned cup. Will you drink from it, allowing their bitterness to become your own? Or will you step back and leave them to hold it alone? Anger toward others is like acid in your own cup. It only burns you. But compassion? Compassion transforms. The next time someone insults you, instead of fighting, pause. Take a breath. Ask yourself, what pain made them this way? When someone is cruel, recognize that they are struggling with something unseen. Maybe they feel unheard, unloved, unseen. Instead of defending, deflect with understanding. If someone lashes out, try something unexpected. Ask, "Are you okay?" It won't always change them, but it will change you. Martin Luther King Jr. said, "Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that." The world teaches us to fight hate with hate, but it never works. The only thing that neutralizes cruelty is compassion. It does not mean tolerating mistreatment, but it does mean refusing to let another's darkness dim your light. Now, reflect. Who makes you feel like glass instead of a diamond? What if your kindness confused their hate? Take a deep breath. Be the diamond, unbreakable, unshaken, untouched. Bonus lesson. The ego is a shadow. Step into light. A shadow only exists when something blocks the light. The moment you step fully into your own radiance, the shadow disappears. But how often do we live in the dark corners of our own mind, letting our ego dictate our worth? The fear of judgment, the need to prove ourselves, the endless cycle of comparison. These are the illusions that keep us trapped. And yet, the ego is nothing more than a shadow. It feels real, but the moment we stop feeding it attention, it vanishes. We spend so much of our lives chasing approval, measuring our worth by how others perceive us. We mold ourselves to fit expectations, thinking that if we are liked, we are valuable. But here's the truth. Whose shadow are you chasing? Are you exhausting yourself trying to impress people who wouldn't even notice if you disappeared from their life? Are you bending yourself into someone you're not just to avoid judgment? The moment you stop seeking validation, you free yourself from an invisible prison. There is a story of a monk who was once ridiculed for not conforming to societal expectations. People laughed at his simple robes, his quiet ways. One day, a man mocked him, saying, "Aren't you ashamed to be so different?" The monk simply smiled and replied, "Ashamed? Of what? I am only a traveler passing through." This is the essence of liberation. Understanding that your identity is not something for others to shape. You are not here to win approval. You are here to live truthfully. Think about the moments you've doubted yourself. Was it because you truly believed you weren't enough, or because you feared how others would perceive you? The ego thrives on comparison. It tells you that you need to be more successful, more attractive, more accomplished, always more. But the ego is never satisfied. The more you feed it, the hungrier it becomes. The way out is to stop measuring yourself against others. Stop living in their light. Be your own sun. There is a profound realization waiting for you. Your so-called flaws only exist in the presence of comparison. A short tree is only short next to a taller one. A quiet person is only too quiet in a world that values noise. A person with a simple life is only not enough in a society that glorifies excess. The moment you stop comparing, the labels disappear. And when the labels disappear, you step into freedom. When you realize this, something shifts. You no longer need to chase validation. You stop trying to please everyone. You stop fearing rejection because you understand that rejection is just redirection toward where you truly belong. You no longer live for others' expectations. You live for your truth. And when you do, you become untouchable. So, the next time you catch yourself people-pleasing, pause. Ask yourself, whose shadow am I chasing? Are you living for your own truth, or are you just avoiding judgment? Stand in your own light. Stop shrinking for the comfort of others. You are not a reflection of their expectations. You are the source of your own brilliance. Now take a moment. Breathe. What shadow are you still running from? Turn around, face the light, and watch it disappear. Quick summary of the 6 lessons. Lesson 1. Suffering is optional. Perception is your lens. Pain is inevitable, but suffering is a choice. Reframe challenges as neutral feedback, not personal attacks. Your focus determines your reality. Lesson 2. The illusion of control. Ride the river's current. Struggling against life's flow drains you. Surrender to its wisdom. Trust that uncertainty is guiding you, not breaking you. Lesson 3. The mirror of karma. Reflect, don't absorb. Hurtful actions reflect others' pain, not your worth. Choose calm over chaos. Respond with values, not vengeance. Lesson 4. The sword of mindfulness. Cut. Mental chains, overthinking is a cage. Observe thoughts like passing storms. Don't let them hijack your peace. Lesson 5. Emptiness is strength. The storm passes through, resisting pain amplifies it. Let emotions flow through you like wind through bamboo, hollow, unbroken. Lesson 6. Compassion as armor. Deflect, don't defend. Cruelty is a cry for help. Meet hate with curiosity. Kindness disarms conflict and shields your energy. Life is not happening to you, it's happening for you. Every insult, loss, or fear is a masterclass in dissolving ego and discovering the unshakable stillness beneath your storms. Buddhism teaches that you are not the rider of the horse, but the sky it gallops under. You are the sky. Everything else is just weather. The untouchable mindset isn't built on ignoring pain, but on redefining it. When you stop fighting reality, you become its alchemist, turning chaos into clarity, rejection into rebirth, and wounds into wisdom. Ask yourself, what if your greatest power lies not in control, but in surrender? If this video shifted your perspective, like and share it to spark someone else's awakening. Drop a comment. What lesson will you practice first? Subscribe to Deep Wisdom, your sanctuary for transforming ancient truths into modern peace. The journey to unshakable freedom begins with a single click.